What up, everybody? This is Rob Brand.
And this is Rick Brand, and we are the Brothers Brand.
Welcome to the podcast, episode 18, Super Bowl Media Day. Arguably the greatest story Rick and I have to offer you fans and listeners. Get cozy, get the popcorn ready, because enjoy the show. This is going to be hilarious.
Rob, this is my favorite story that we have. It's just probably one of the best journeys anybody has ever taken to their first ever Super Bowl. Back years ago, we went to Super Bowl 49, Patriots and Seahawks. It was fantastic. It was a great game. But what I really enjoyed about it, and I think our listeners are going to love, is how we perfected the art of attending your first ever Super Bowl by doing all of the fun fanfare activities that the NFL offers.
Yeah, this is going to be a 3-part Super Bowl episodes that we have coming out. We have Super Bowl Media Day, we got the week at the Super Bowl, and then we have the Super Bowl itself. It's the only way we could do justice to this story.
Again, I agree, Rob. We have to break down the details of what you just said. We've got to talk about the Media Day experience, because what we're going to dive into here this afternoon during this podcast is the greatest couple of hours that you could spend at a Super Bowl interacting with the Tom Bradys and the Russell Wilsons and all the media folk that are in town for the greatest show in the world.
Absolutely. Now, I'd be remiss, Rick, if I did not give a massive shout out to none other than Hockey Dave McCarthy. Now, Dave is a dear friend of the pod. He works with the NHL. He's a dear friend of ours, and we were lucky enough to be guests of his at the Super Bowl. Cannot thank you enough, D-Mac. Much love to you, brother.
And you know what, Rob? We've always talked about how we've got to give thanks to all the people that help our road trips and journeys happen. And you're right, Dave came through like the Sultan of SWAT. He was just so right on the spot that whole trip. He made everything happen. And again, like Rob said, appreciative, Dave, for being your guest at the Super Bowl. And of course, your partner in crime there, Gary Schiller, in town as well. The four of us had a phenomenal journey throughout the weekend of the Super Bowl. But Rob and I, for all you listeners out there, we flew into town well before the Super Bowl. As you know, the game takes place Sunday evening. We got into town almost an entire week ahead of time. We flew in on a Monday. And the reason why is because we had taken the time out weeks in advance to prepare for what the Super Bowl week offers. And the first big major event of Super Bowl week is called Media Day. For you listeners out there that aren't super familiar with Media Day, let me break it down for you real quick. It is the teams are getting into town for Super Bowl week. So you had the Patriots, you had the Seahawks. They were flying in from their respective cities. And when they get to town, they're set up in their different headquarters, hotels, practicing. And the first major thing they do is they appear in front of the media on the Tuesday before the Super Bowl. And this is a long, tiring day for a lot of these guys, they'll tell you, because they spend 4 or 5 hours in front of the cameras answering some of the most ridiculous questions. And that's what Rob and I got a chance to participate in. So again, just going into more detail of this event so that you have context for how epic this story is. Picture an arena, not an NFL stadium arena that sits 100,000 people, but picture a basketball or hockey arena. In this particular example, think of the Phoenix Suns, the Coyotes, their hockey or basketball sized arena where you've got the floor where the court and the ice rink would be, and then the lower bowl, and then the upper bowl area. So you've got like a 25,000 person seat stadium. And it's important to understand the layout because Rob and I, after we got there, we dove deep and explored and got eventually to the mecca of where you wanted to be during Media Day. But before we get into that, Rob wants to share, and it's very important for, again, you to understand how epic of a trip this was because of the preparation that went into this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just a little tidbit right there. I just want to drill home this point. If you go to a Super Bowl, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. The right way is to take off the whole week from work take it off, take the sick days, and go on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest and enjoy the festivities. The wrong way would be to fly in on a Friday or Saturday. You know, you've really got to embrace the city that's taken over this Super Bowl.
Yeah, and listen, flying in on a Friday night or a Saturday the day before the Super Bowl sounds cool, sounds fun, but trust me, there's so many great things to do in the city that's hosting the Super Bowl the whole week of the event that it's necessary. If you're really going to maximize your time and experience, go there a week in advance, enjoy the concerts, enjoy the fan festivities. We're going to dive into that in our next episode, but this episode focuses on our experience at Media Day Super Bowl 49.
All right, so let's get into the preparation for this. Picture two young bucks leaving Newark Airport, fly into Arizona. We get to Arizona. We're crashing with our aunt and our cousin at their house in Phoenix. Shout out to them. And when we prepped for this trip, Rick is an absolute genius. I'm gonna lay this on him. He went to the University of Alabama, which we brought up in an episode prior. And if you listen to that episode, Rick was rocking an awesome outfit, suit, bow tie, everything was matching, looked like he was going to play in the game. And that's what we took into this scenario. We brought suits with us because we knew we were going to Super Bowl Media Day and we wanted to wear suits for that. We also wanted to wear suits for the Super Bowl. So I brought a 3-piece suit. Rick brought a regular suit. We got ties. We also went on eBay and Amazon, and just like our prior road trips, we got Seahawks and Patriots swag. We got lapel pins. We got badges and lanyards to make it look legit. And we just did a lot of research on this. So,
you know, one of the things, Rob, you're totally right, is that, I mean, you got to think about this. The NFC and the AFC championship games happen 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. 2 weeks. So what that gives you is a little bit extra time to prepare for Super Bowl week. So I remember vividly sitting on the couch watching the AFC and NFC championship games take place and unfold, knowing we were going to go to this Super Bowl regardless of who was participating in it. So when those final plays wound down and we had winners, teams that were going to the Super Bowl, I clicked buy on eBay for all the different things that you just mentioned. We had the Patriot logo ties, the lapel pins, and we were ready to go, and we had apparel for the entire week. So just important to know all the work and advanced studies that went into this trip.
Advanced studies, a little R&D, research and development.
Hey, you could put me in a front office as a scout if you need me to.
All right, so guys, here we are, Tuesday morning. We drive and we show up at the stadium at about like 7:30 in the morning, 7:38 in the morning. This doesn't start until about 9 o'clock. And you can picture this. It's kind of a rainy day, a little mist in the air, and everybody outside of the stadium has on jerseys, Patriots, Seahawks jerseys. Rick and I are the only ones wearing suits, and Rick took it a step further. He brought a microphone from home, like a legit microphone with a box around it. And this is how genius his move was. He could have printed out ESPN. He could have printed out Fox. He could have printed out any logo and put it around the box, put it around the 4 sides, but he didn't. He went neutral. He printed out the logo of the Super Bowl that year and taped it around all 4 sides. It had a cord and it ran into his coat pocket and it was attached to nothing. I had a little notepad on hand that with a pen that I was looking like I was taking down notes. So if you're a third party perspective here, you know, we look like we're reporters. And our whole plan was we bought tickets. You can buy tickets to the Super Bowl Media Day at that time for like $25, and you get to sit in the lower bowl. You go inside, you sit in the lower bowl. They give you headphones to plug into your phone, and you can listen to different interviews. And that was our goal. Our goal was to go in there, do that, and then somehow walk down onto the field and start interviewing Tom Brady and Russell Wilson.
Yeah. So Rob, listen, we had our accessories ready. We dressed for success. Like you said, we're outside this arena. We're the only ones that really look like reporters. Everybody else has got face painting and jerseys on, and they look like fans. And so we're in line just as everybody else in line, but we don't look the part. You know, we look like we're there for work. versus being there for fun and fandom. And so I remember, Rob, as I'm sure you do, standing in line, and all of a sudden this big bouncer guy, I mean, he was a big security guy, not your average, small or whatever. He was a big time security guard. And he comes over and he puts his hand on one of our shoulders and he says something along the lines of, "Hey guys, the reporting side, if you're a reporter, the media entrance is on the other side of the stadium. Let me show you where that is." And I remember, like, you and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, "Is this guy serious?" and yeah, you know what? He escorted us around to the other side of this basketball arena, which was a decent walk. And he basically said, "All right, fellas, here you are. This is where the media personnel enter into the stadium." And that entrance, Rob, if you recall, it was like walking through the TSA gates at an airport. You had your bomb sniffing dogs, you had your metal detectors. I mean, there was security on security. And they weren't necessarily checking for credentials. They were just checking your persons to make sure that you weren't bringing in anything that shouldn't be brought in.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And I was sweating. I was like, is this really happening? Are we about to do this right now? And Rick's like, just follow me. And, God bless this guy. He must have been 80 years old. And I don't know why he was manning the security setup, but he was. And he turns to Rick and says, "Hey, do you need to get that microphone calibrated?" Like as he's taking it out of his pockets.
I don't even know what that means. To this day, I have no idea what that means.
Same. No clue. And Rick goes, "Nah, it just plugs into my phone." And this guy was 80, and this was back in 2014. And he just goes, I was like, "What?" Like he was totally baffled by it. And Rick and I just put our stuff in the conveyor belt and walked through the metal detector. We saw 2 state troopers. We just said, "Thanks for your service." And then we walked in.
So we're basically now in the stadium. If you can picture an empty arena, completely empty. There's no fans in this arena yet. They're still waiting outside where we actually were initially waiting to get in. And so we're in this empty stadium, and there's only been a handful of media personnel to have already entered into the stadium. We're always there early. I think if you've listened to any of our podcasts and our road trips, we've always talked about dressing the part and also arriving early because good things will happen. And also if you bring a ton of positive energy, you put those 3 things together and you're going to have a great experience at any sporting event, regardless of what it is. But getting back to this, which is arguably the greatest story and journey we've ever had on our sports road trips, is we're now inside this empty stadium in the concourse area, the area where you would typically buy concession stands, concession food, all that stuff is on sale. But they're not selling concessions, Rob. They've got a table set up, just a regular fold-up table, maybe like a nice backdrop with a Super Bowl logo on it. And at that table was where you were supposed to pick up your credentials. Each media personnel was to get their credential. They were going to get a little swag bag, maybe a notepad, some pens, just everything with the Super Bowl and NFL logos on it. Now, I remember, as I'm sure you do, we both looked at ourselves and said, we don't have any credentials. They're not going to be at this table. There's no sense in us going up to this table because they're not going to have anything for us. And it could just lead to a conflict, or
we would get the boot.
There'd be some awkwardness, I think. So we wisely realized that that was not the direction we wanted to head in. But what we did hear as we were coming through the security area was that they were basically instructing people throughout the concourse, media personnel, reporters, camera folk. There's 2 ways to get down out onto the floor, out onto the court area where the court would typically be. Remember, we're up in the concourse, so we've got to get down lower from where we are. And they said there's 2 ways. One, you could take the service elevator, which is like your big industrial sized elevator, down a couple floors, and that'll take you out onto the court. Or you can walk down the steps of like the lower bowl as if you were going down to like the front row seats. And then there's a secondary couple steps that gets you down out onto the floor. So Rob, I remember we walked thinking the first option of walking down the concourse and then the lower bowl would be our best bet. But that was not our best bet.
Yeah, so we start strolling down and, we're just trying to play it cool, trying to act like we're supposed to be there. And what happened is we start walking down And as we're walking down, there's a little bit of a line forming at the bottom, and there's a big security guard down there checking people's credentials. And when he comes upon us, we just try and pull the nonchalant, like walk by him real quick behind like some other people and tag along on their coattails. And it didn't happen. He grabbed us. He grabbed both of us with one arm, to give you a context of how big this guy was. And he goes, "Hey man, where are your credentials?" And Rick, light on his toes, goes, "Yeah, we got to get that from our manager. He said to meet him on the field." And this guy up downed us real suspicious like, and was not buying the story. And he goes, "Who's your manager?" And Rick goes, "Yeah, our manager, Todd. He told us to bring on the field." And this guy's like, I don't know what's going on here, guys. You guys should have got your credentials a while ago. And we look at him, and a line is forming behind us. So he just goes, "Hey guys, you got to figure this stuff out with your manager. I got to take these people. So why don't you move over here?" So we move over to the side, and we turn around to kind of do the walk of shame back to the concourse level. And as we're doing the walk of shame, we look up and we see none other than Sal Palantonio and Ed Warner just chilling right next to us, maybe 10 rows up, and just hanging out, before the whole party started, and relaxing. So what do, Rick?
We approach them, of course. What else would we do, Rob? These are two icons in the industry. We've grown up watching them on ESPN, and we're just fans of their great work. So we walk over, and as we're walking over to Sal Palantonio and Ed Warner of ESPN, who are there covering the Super Bowl because that's their job, not like us, but that's their job. We're walking over, and Sal Palantonio is giving like this look of us, and keep in mind, like, we're just bursting with energy. We're coming in hot, we're excited, and we go, "Hey Sal, what's going on, man? This is my brother Rob, I'm Rick." And he asked us, he goes, "Hey, how you guys doing? What are you guys doing here?" And we were like, "Hey, listen, Sal, this is our first ever time covering a Super Bowl. We've never been to a Super Bowl before. We're so excited to be here." And he busts out the, "Hey, who you guys work for? Who you with?" And light on my feet again, I said, "Some small paper in New Jersey. Probably never heard of it. It's," he goes, he pried a little bit. He said, "What's it called? What's it called? What's the name of it? I'm kind of from that area." And the Asbury Park Press. And, that's a paper that is a local, small, not a big name paper that we figured he would have heard of. But it turns out Sal Palantonio is from the Northeast, and is from specifically the Philadelphia region, and is familiar with the Asbury Park Press, so much so that his immediate response, without skipping a beat, is, "Oh, the APP." And that's where Rob and I got a little nervous because, maybe he would have known somebody there, or we wouldn't have. It just could have been an awkward situation. But Sal kind of took it upon himself to take any awkwardness or tension out of the situation when he said, "Yeah, I applied there for a job right out of college, was hoping to, get into the industry, and I interviewed there, but I didn't get the job." And Rob and I laughed and said, "Listen, who's laughing now? I mean, you've had a successful career, you're doing great." And it was just a funny moment for him to have known the APP.
Exactly. And we hang out with Sal for a little bit longer, and Ed Warner's with him. And our go-to line was, "This is the first Super Bowl we're covering." We didn't say with who, but we just kept saying, "It's the first Super Bowl we're covering. Can we get a picture?" And that was the line that we used for every picture in Super Bowl Media Day, because if you're a reporter, like, you probably regret not enjoying the moment when you were there and not taking more photos and really taking it all in. So we said to Sal and Ed, we go, "Hey, this is our first Super Bowl we're covering. Can we get a picture with you?" And Ed's like, "Yeah, can I get in?" So we get this awesome picture with Sal Palantonio and Ed Warner. After we get the photo, we're like, "Hey Sal, great to meet you, man. We're gonna head on down and get started with this." And he's like, "All right, good luck, guys." And we head back to the concourse. And this is where the stars align. I don't think this will ever happen ever again. And I don't think we'll ever go to a Super Bowl Media Day because this was just so epic. We go back to that table there was another table that had all this food, donuts, breakfast food, coffees, teas. And we load up plates. Rick and I are like, you know what? At the very least, we'll get a free meal out of this if we don't go in.
Now, listen, guys, keep in mind the stadium is still empty. There aren't any fans in the arena yet. So we're still in an empty bowl. There's no one really there, just a few reporters still lingering before the action gets started. So, Rob, we go over to the stadium, over to this table. We pick up our food. I remember I grabbed a coffee. I don't even drink coffee. But again, looking the part was key. And here we are. We've got donuts, coffees.
Yeah, when you have food in your hands, it really makes a huge difference. Like, people don't want to ask you for credentials; they want to ask you for tickets because it's bothersome. So we remembered that when we were being brought in, that somebody goes, "Hey, there's two entrances." So we remembered the service elevator. So like, we got to find the service elevator. We find the service elevator, and the stars align, like I just said. Never going to happen again. Probably 30 seconds before we walked over there, somebody must have spilt their coffee on the floor. So the security guard that's supposed to be checking credentials for people going down to the elevator is on his hands and knees cleaning up this coffee like his job depends on it.
Rob, this guy had one job. His sole responsibility sitting in this massive service elevator was to check the credentials of each person getting on the elevator to confirm that they should be going down to the floor level to talk with the players and do their job.
And the two people he forgot, the brothers Brandt.
Oh my gosh, dude, the guy, like you said, he was on his hands and knees. He was cleaning up this mess. And at no point did he ever ask for credentials. In fact, I'm pretty sure you and I were the ones that hit the button on the elevator to go down.
We did. We pressed the down button. And so here we go. We go down. The doors open. We have all this food and drinks in our hands, and we can see the tunnel to go out onto the field.
It was really cool because we walked off the elevator, and then if you could picture it, it's like a tunnel with the light at the end of the tunnel, just a perfect vision of light at the end of the tunnel, about maybe 40 feet down, because we're in this now floor level, the same level that the floor is on, and it's the level that the players run out onto the court if it was a basketball game. So we're going down this tunnel, and there's nothing in front of us, just the light, and we're getting closer, and we're like, we can feel the energy. We're going to get there, and then
yeah, and then I'll remember this till the day I die, Rick. We're walking right into the light, googly-eyed, so pumped, like kids on Christmas that we made it. Out of nowhere, two security guards come right at us, and I immediately thought we were going to jail. What did you think?
I was open for interpretation of the situation, but I did not have a great feeling about
it. Yeah. So they come up to us, and right away they're like, I think they're going to ask for credentials. They do not. They go, guys, no food or beverage past this point. And we immediately just, wipe the sweat off our face and quickly throw away our food in the nearest garbage can.
No food? No problem. Let me get rid of this coffee. I don't even drink coffee, I said. So I got rid of it. Rob threw his away. And then they parted like they were opening up the Red Sea. We walked right out onto the floor. And now we're there. We are on the floor. And let me just give you some more detail so that you can envision yourself in this situation. It's an empty floor, a big space, an NBA court, an ice hockey rink, completely empty, and it's filled with a handful of stations. I think maybe around a dozen stations. And they're like these metal contraptions that are all set up to basically be 12 individual booths for individual players to sit at with a microphone. And they're logoed out with the NFL logo and team logos on it. But they're these empty booths all around the floor. And essentially, we're now out where we're supposed to be with all the other reporters. But yet, the event has not begun. Fans have not entered into the stadium to fill up the lower bowl yet. And the players themselves have not come out to fill these booths. And so the event hasn't started. And this is a critical moment for us during this day, because we basically had about a half hour, 45 minutes to basically kill before things got incredibly awesome. And this was so important because the security personnel that were supposed to be checking credentials are very focused for the next half hour, 40 minutes, on us and all of the media personnel to make sure all the people are there. Now, again, going back to how prepared Rob and I were for this, lanyards are huge. Lanyards are so important, and they were probably most important during this event. We had lanyards on. These lanyards looked like the same lanyards that everybody else had on. They had the black rope, they had a little logo on them. The lanyard itself looked great. But at the end of the lanyard, the credential, which we did not have, everybody else had. And for the most part, people had it on display. But what we did was we had these lanyards and credentials tucked into our suit jackets on the inside. So from the outside, you see the rope, you see the loop going around the neck like everybody else, but our credentials just happen to be tucked in. And that allowed for us, I feel like, to be in a safe spot. And we did a great job of interacting with the other reporters that we had never met before. Some of them were no names and big names, but we just blended in.
Yeah, and I remember one particular reporter. I'm blanking on her name, but she was from Europe, and she was covering the Super Bowl for some country in Europe. And we just hit it off. We were talking for 40 minutes about U.S. sports, and what was so crucial to this conversation is at some point in the conversation, she said, "Hey, are you guys going to Super Bowl Media Day party later on tonight?"
And I don't want to get ahead of the epicness that took place throughout this day, but it only kept getting better and better. And like you said, Rob, this interaction with this young lady who was roughly around our age, she was from Europe covering the Super Bowl for her first time ever as well. And she was so excited. She was there alone. And we befriended each other during this waiting period, this lull time before the players came out. And we interacted throughout the day and stayed in touch. And but that's exactly right, Rob. She asked us, "Hey, are you guys going to the Media Day party tonight?"
So lights went off in my head. I go, "Hey, let's exchange numbers and meet up after this and head over there together," because I had no idea what she was talking about.
Neither did I. I had never heard of a Media Day party night.
Yeah, exactly. And so we hang out with her. Small talk, and then the time just flies by. And now the Seahawks come out, and they're doing their press conference. We go right over to
Well, we went over to a lot of the booths. Russell Wilson's was the first booth, and now you've got the fans. Picture the fans now filling up the lower bowl. You probably got maybe close to 10,000 people sitting in the stands, and all the security guards personnel went from focusing on the media personnel up towards the fans to make sure that the fans were acting appropriately, and everything was fine. I think from that point on, Rob, I know I felt a lot more comfortable.
we had free reign.
Yeah, we had free reign. And like you said, the players ended up then going to their respective booths. There was about I'd say a dozen booths where prominent players, you had Russell Wilson, you had Richard Sherman at the time. Marshawn Lynch had a booth, which, by the way, he never showed up to and I think got fined by the NFL. But nonetheless, you had a bunch of players that were big name stars that occupied these booths for 4 hours. Pete Carroll had a booth, the coach, and the other players, because keep in mind, there's like 50 players on a team, so 40 of them don't have booths. They're just mingling around, walking the floor as well, and they're taking questions and interviews, just not on such a grand stage.
Yeah. Rick, what was your favorite question? What was a couple of questions and then your favorite question you asked Russell Wilson?
Well, I'll tell you, right off the bat, Russell Wilson's one of the most upstanding, phenomenal NFL players and just general athletes and people out there. Russell Wilson, Seahawk fans know how charitable he is and how giving he is and how important people are to him because of his time in that community. And I'm sure anybody that's met Russell Wilson will attest to that. Being a big fan, I'm well aware of the volunteer time he spends with local hospitals, specifically on Tuesdays, off days in the Seattle area. And so he typically will spend his Tuesday over at a local hospital with kids and people that are sick. And he doesn't do it for the glamour. He does it for, because it's the right thing to do. And really cool. And I was asking him about that. And I remember he had a good one-liner back. I asked him, I go, "So I know you're charitable. You typically would spend Tuesdays at a local Seattle hospital. What are you doing this week?" And he kind of said, I have to be here, but I would have liked to have been at an Arizona hospital. Maybe I'll find some time. But, he kind of dished it back to us as reporters because, we were reporting that day, Rob.
Yep, exactly. The funny thing was Rick was holding his microphone out like he was actually recording something, and I was holding my phone out as if I was holding something too.
Well, you had your phone, and that was actually legitimately recording something on your phone. But you're right. My microphone was just rolled into my pocket. The cord went into my pocket. It wasn't even plugged into anything, but I was doing the give and take as I asked questions. That was a lot of fun.
Who were your favorite people that we bumped into during on the non-people interviewing? Because Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Pete Carroll, great to ask them questions. But who were your favorite people to bump into?
Yeah, so there were a ton of media personnel, just fun personalities that you would see on television over the years that were roaming the floor and performing their jobs. And geez, there's so many that stick out to me. Of course, Chris Berman. I mean, he's a legend in the industry. So Chris Berman was pretty awesome. I would say, Michael Irvin was really epic. I mean, he took the time to really, spend time with us, talk, and get some good photos. He was really terrific. Who'd you like, Rob?
Well, I loved. We got a picture with Kurt Warner, which was awesome. I mean, I grew up playing Madden and, the greatest show on turf. So it was really cool to meet Kurt Warner and get a picture with him. It was also very cool to meet JB Smoove, who is a actor. He was just chilling. And we got a picture with JB Smoove. And ironically, there was a player on the New England Patriots. I'm not sure if he still plays with them anymore, if he's even in the league, but he was from Wall High School, and Rick played against him in high school.
Yeah, shout out to Tim Wright. Tim Wright from Wall, New Jersey, Rutgers star. He ended up playing in the NFL for several years, and he won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Great guy doing phenomenal work. And, we got a chance to catch up and chop it up, which was really cool from our Shore Conference football days. But there were so many people out there. I'm a big fan of Josina Anderson from ESPN. She does a great job. David Faraday from the Golf Network.
Oh, yeah, you got the picture with Faraday.
Oh,
I
love Faraday. What a guy.
Yeah. So going back to the Michael Irvin story, because that's a funny story. I'll give you the scenario. Rick and I are hanging out. It is just a madhouse down there. People running back and forth, reporting, doing their jobs.
These guys are actually working. We're there having a ball.
Just taking photos left and right, asking stupid questions. Anyway, we see Michael Irvin coming by, and he is fast walking, almost jogging. He's wearing the NFL Network logo on his polo, so he's doing some reporting. And we go, Mr. Irvin, it's our first time reporting at the Super Bowl. Can we just get a picture with you? And he looks at us with hesitation. He's like, I kind of have to be somewhere, but sure, make it quick. And we hand Rick's phone over to someone our age, like in their 20s. And we hand it over to him, and we're like, oh, okay, no problem. This dude's going to take a photo, one shot. It's not going to be like a 50-year-old guy that doesn't know how to work a phone. And for Rick's phone, it has a slight delay on it. So you press the take photo button, and it's like a second delay to take the photo. So this kid is got the photo lined up, and he presses the button, but then as he's pressing the button, he puts the phone down because he realized it didn't instantly take the photo, and the flash kind of comes at our crotch. And if you can picture this, Michael Irvin is right in between me and Rick, and we're smiling, and Michael Irvin goes to us. He goes, man, this is going to be one shitty photo.
Yeah, like he was handing back the phone to us as the flash was going. I mean, anybody that's in their 30s, 20s, teens, they should know how to take a photo. You've got to wait for the pause, the flash, capture the moment, and then hand the phone back. But this guy handed it back mid-flash.
So then Michael Irvin just goes, nah, you got to take another photo.
Michael Irvin grabbed my phone from this guy's hand, and he said, you got to do this again, man. That's going to be a shitty photo. And Michael Irvin went from being in a huge rush to get to his set because he was working, he was in the mood. And then all of a sudden, he's like, all right, we got to make sure we get the best photo for these guys.
Exactly. And, so many people we met, Brett Kiesel, it was cool to meet him. Fear the Beard, Pittsburgh Steelers. One of my favorites was bit monster shout out to Devin McCourty and Jeremy Branch right here. So if you can picture this, the Seahawks leave, and then the Patriots come out and doing the same thing. And Devin McCourty has his own booth. So I walk over to Devin McCourty's booth. He's got a couple of people in front of me, so I'm in the second row. And Jeremy Branch is a dear friend of mine, dear friend of the pod. He was a long snapper at Rutgers, and he was friends with Devin and his brother at Rutgers University. So I just nonchalantly go, "Hey, Devin, Jeremy Branch says, what up?" And Devin stops answering questions to whoever was asking them and goes, "What'd you say, Jeremy Branch?" And I go, "Jeremy Branch says, what's up?" And he goes, "My man." And he just goes, what questions you got? What questions you got?
That's what Rutgers alumni do, man. Just great people. The whole place was just phenomenal atmosphere. And then I think the pinnacle of the day was really getting the opportunity to ask questions to the greatest quarterback and arguably the greatest NFL player of all time, the GOAT, Tom Brady himself. So big, huge football fan, lifelong, sports football fan. I may have been a Jets fan growing up and still enjoy my Jets, but you got to respect Tom Brady and all he's accomplished. So to spend 10, 15 minutes going back and forth with questions and him really valuing what I was saying and me just like a little boy just loving listening to what he had to say.
What questions did you ask the GOAT, Rick?
All right, so I played wide receiver throughout college, and I was not the greatest wide receiver, but a good wide receiver. And I was really curious to hear from him who his favorite wide receivers were over the years. He's had so many good ones, and he gave a real political answer back, and he talked about having some really great receivers, and he really just enjoyed throwing the ball to all the guys he's thrown to over the years. So I remember him answering. That was one of the questions. And then I remember another question I had asked him. I said, "Hey, Tom, so, you've been in the league for a while now. You've taken a lot of hits. You've been sacked a few times in your career. Who's like one of the hardest hitting guys that, you've ever received a tackle from?" And he kind of like shrugged a little bit and like rubbed his shoulder and tried moving his arm around a little bit. He goes, that DN from Baltimore, I mean, that was a couple of weeks ago, and my shoulder's still bothering me a little bit. But it was cool. He has a good sense of humor. We all see that in his social media game. But he was very memorable and a huge fan of Tom Brady.
Oh, man. TB12, how can you not be? All right, so the day is –
it's a long day, Rob. I mean, we got there around like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. The Seahawks were out there all morning for like 3 or 4 hours. And then just a quick intermission, and then the Patriot players come out. And here we are now another 3 or 4 hours out there. It's got to be 4:30, 5 o'clock by the time the whole thing's winding down.
Absolutely. So it's winding down. We're tired. I mean, we're on cloud nine. I turn to Rick and go, "Dude, we could leave right now and not even see the Super Bowl, and I would be okay with that." But fast forward to the greatest Super Bowl, arguably of all time, I would have not been okay with that.
Oh my gosh, Rob, we saw probably one of the best Super Bowls ever later that week on Sunday, but the whole week got kicked off with a home run, this media day concept. We highly recommend people out there, if you're going to your first ever Super Bowl, look into all the festive activities that are taking place and try to be a part of them somehow, some way. This one was not over, though. This one was not over because we still had that party to get to that we were invited to by an actual reporter.
Yeah, so we go, and I believe we went to the local nearest Chipotle and just got a couple of bowls for ourselves, really just relaxed and mellowed out for an hour. And then we're texting away with this girl from Europe, and she's giving us all the details, and she says, "Hey, come to this hotel."
I thought the hotel that she invited us to was where the party was going to be taking place.
I did as well. I thought it was going to be a really simple thing. Hey, just walk into this hotel. It's going to be a nice ballroom. And that was not the case. They had probably 6 tinted out big tour buses like bands would take. for their tours. And we walk up to her, we say, "Hey, good to see you again." And she looks at us and she goes, "Hey, where are your credentials?" And our immediate response was, "Oh, we left them in the car." And she goes, "Oh, you might need those for tonight." And I got a little sweaty. I was getting a little nervous. I think Rick might have got a little nervous too.
She was really emphasizing, I think a couple times, like we were probably together for 10, 15 minutes when we first met up at her hotel before we boarded these buses. And she was like, yeah, I think you're going to need those credentials. Turns out we didn't need the credentials as much as she thought we needed the credentials.
So we get on these tour buses outside of the hotel and we have no idea where we're going. We just get on, just sit there, just have fun, connect with people around us.
All the reporters that we saw earlier in the day were, now boarding these buses. So it was kind of cool. It'd been a long day. We're on these buses. The sun is starting to set. And Rob, take it from here.
Yeah, sun is starting to set. We're driving out into the distance, and Phoenix is in the rearview mirror. I'm actually a little nervous still because I still think we might need the credentials. And I'm doing the math in my head. I go, man, we're like 30 minutes outside the city. This is going to be like a $200 Uber home if we have to leave or get kicked out. And as soon as I think that in my head, I hear the PA announcer come on the tour bus or come on the bus speakers and say, "Hey guys, welcome to Super Bowl Media Day party. We're so excited to have you guys here. This entire week is going to be so much work. So we wanted to really treat you tonight. This is an all you can eat, all you can drink party at the Crow's Nest out in Scottsdale, Arizona, where the Congos are going to be putting on a live concert for you."
Oh, Rob, it was awesome. So we went from being nervous to now being over the moon excited. This party we roll up to is catered by all of the finest restaurants in the Arizona area. There's all the drinks you could possibly consume, the delicious food. Not only are media personnel there, but all the celebrities are there too. I remember we were hanging with Jason Taylor, Hall of Fame defensive lineman. Miss Arizona was there. It was fantastic.
Rick, we were hanging out with Miss Arizona for arguably an hour, just shooting the breeze.
It was phenomenal. They had a great show. The bands were exceptional. There was prizes. There was giveaways. Just the day couldn't have been any better. We were there, I don't know, Rob, it was probably close to midnight. Maybe, yeah, we probably were there for 3, 4, maybe 5 hours. We get on one of the buses to head back. Now we're getting back towards the hotel where we initially, boarded the bus, and we're leaving with all this swag. I mean, we've got our arms filled with everything you could possibly think.
We had flip-flops, like Super Bowl Media Day flip-flops that I think you still wear.
Yeah, 5 years later, the things are still working. So we figured a great investment. Why not? Why not? So we get back over to the hotel and we get off this bus. It's now 12:30, 1 o'clock in Phoenix. And we still got to get back. We got a big week ahead of us. But who do we see just walking the streets out in the hotel, stumbling around? None other than the professor, John Clayton. Anybody who's ever watched SportsCenter and enjoyed some good football dialogue and analysis knows who John Clayton is, and he's a legend in the industry. So we see him, of course, our line is we're covering the Super Bowl for the first time ever, and he couldn't have been nicer and more welcoming. And I think he was enjoying himself too, even in the late hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was having a blast. He was on cloud nine. We saw him. We go, "Hey, Mr. Clayton, could we get a picture? It's our first Super Bowl we're covering." And he goes, "Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely."
So great guy, great day. Just, again, probably one of the most memorable days, events that we've ever had in our lives. I don't know if there's going to be many things out there that top this scenario, but just put yourself in the position to succeed, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime you're going to a sporting event, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have this experience.
It was unreal. It was unreal. Arguably the coolest thing we've ever done. I can almost guarantee we will never try this again because it will never meet our expectations.
Rob, the stars aligned. Everything from how we got there and met the people and just all the fun we had was perfect. So you're right. I don't know if we'll do it again, but the next episode we're going to get into is going to be the week-long festivities. Now, we've gotten through Tuesday, but you still got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of just fantastic, fun things to do while you're at the Super Bowl. This is all about how to enjoy the Super Bowl to the best of your ability. And we're gonna chop that up in the next couple of episodes. But stay tuned out there. Appreciate you guys listening. For everybody out there, my name is Rick.
And I'm Rob, and we're the Brothers Brant. Thanks for being a friend of the pod.